Are live. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another in the series, JMB Go Get Alive. I am Jerome Jarrett, Manager Client Partnerships at JMB Bank. And regrettably, this is our final episode of our Man Talk series for the month of September. I know you guys are going to miss us because, men, we do things a little different, but September was Men's Month, and this is our final episode. If you are new, welcome to JMB Go Better Live series. We do this every Tuesday, where we talk about issues that pertains to finances and other lifestyle issues that affect us all. Right? We started these webinars way back at the beginning of the pandemic, and the responses have been overwhelming and phenomenal. We will try and continue to give you great content as you stay home, socially distancing yourself from friends and family. And we invite you to check out all our recordings that we have done in previous shows on our Facebook page, our YouTube page, and our LinkedIn channels. Tonight, the focus will be on men's health. And I just want to welcome all the persons who are on all social media platforms, our Facebook pages, our YouTube page, our LinkedIn page. Welcome. Feel free to drop us a line in the chat. Let us know where you're calling from. Let us know where you're from. Let us know where you're listening from. Let us know if you have any questions, any concerns, anything you want to see. If you just want to see a name pop up in the screen, just shout up. Just let us know. This week or tonight, we're focusing on men's health and fitness. And being healthy and living a happy life is the true fulfilling of life is the goal of all human beings and many men. Health and physical wellness should play a critical role in the lives of our men. Tonight, we're speaking with two experts in the field of health and wellness. Firstly, I should introduce Dr. Alfred Dawes, who is a general laparoscopic and bariatric weight loss surgeon. And we also, so welcome, Doc. It's nice to have you tonight.
Yeah, man, you got the words right in the run up to the show, and then
Can you imagine?
At the time.
Can you imagine? At a senior moment. And we also have with us Jay Edwards, who is the director of training at Spry Training. Welcome, Jay.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You bring out the tight shirt tonight, and you look like you're in the gym, like you just done pump. Yeah, I don't even want to say it, but it's a good look. It's a good look. All right, so guys, keep the lives coming. We see Twain Harris, JMB up and running. Yes, big up yourself. Is this QQ here turning from Mars. Deon Roden bigging up Dr. Dawes. Ask Dr. Dawes if he don't want a free lipo for. Come on.
We're not going there today.
Doc, you probably you definitely be trending after this session. But let's get started, gentlemen. Let's get started. Men are affected by all kind of diseases. I lost a friend of mine yesterday morning. Died just at the age of 40 from ALS, and it's one of those sickness that it really comes from nowhere. But these are some of the diseases that affect us all, including heart disease, stroke, diabetes, cancer, depression, etc. But they also have unique issues such as prostate cancer and benign prostate enlargement. Today is actually fitting because September is National Prostate Cancer Awareness. And it's also true that regular checkup and screening tests can help the early detection of these diseases and speed up the treatment. So Dr. Dawes, let's start with you. Can you elaborate on some of the biggest issues currently that are affecting our men health-wise?
Well, you struck the nail on the head, because even though we speak about generally heart disease and then we just lump cancers together, the truth is that prostate cancer kills more Jamaicans than any other cancer. And that is just giving you a scope of how bad this is, because not only does it kill a lot of men, it is the #1 killer when you look at all cancers. So even when you look at breast cancer, cervical cancer that get a lot of attention, prostate cancer is really the biggest threat in terms of annual loss of lives in Jamaica. And the truth is that it is preventable. One of the big problems that we have with prostate cancer is that we just keep picking it up at a late stage. You can have early prostate cancer detected where it can be treated without any serious consequences, but we just don't screen, we don't take our health seriously, and as a result, when it is presented to the doctors and caregivers, it is at an advanced stage where you require a lot more complex treatment and the prognosis is a lot worse. Then you look at other things affecting the prostate, such as prostatitis, which is an inflammation or infection of the prostate. And a lot of men just live with this and they think that they have some urinary tract infection. But most commonly, what we see is what we call BPH, or benign prostatic hypertrophy or hyperplasia. That one is probably what results in a lot of men seeking medical attention because of urinary symptoms as they get older. We know about the famous stoppage of water. It's not because you eat too much black pepper or you have drinks with the dregs in the bottom of it, as old people would say, but it is simply because the prostate gland, which is an organ about the size of a guinea, that's right at the base of the bladder, the penis, where the urethra, the tube that leads from the bladder, goes through it to go to the penis. That gets enlarged and it blocks up that outlet from the bladder. And that results in the symptoms of poor passage of urine. So instead of hitting the wall and you're peeing, you start to hit your shoe, you have dribbling, you start to have urine, the urge to urinate in the night, it comes down on you, it dribbles, and then you might have frequency where you pass a lot of urine often, and the feeling that you still have some urine left back inside even after you've just finished voiding. And of course, one of the number one reasons why men take this thing seriously is that it can cause impotence, and that is when, unfortunately, they go to seek medical attention. That is also a sign of prostate cancer, but that is usually when you have advanced prostate cancer or locally advanced prostate cancer, that it starts to invade the nerves around the prostate and, by extension, the nerves that are going to the male organ. So there are a lot of issues with the prostate itself that we ought to take seriously because we have a very high risk of prostate cancer. As a matter of fact, there is one study that said that we are the highest rate of prostate cancer in the world. But we do know that we have a lot of the risk factors. One, there's a genetic risk factor. So if somebody in your family has prostate cancer, your chances of getting prostate cancer are increased, and especially if they had prostate cancer at an early age. And then the other thing is that we are black men the world over have a higher rate of prostate cancer. When you look at the Africans and the West Indians in the UK, when you look at the African Americans, they all have higher rates of prostate cancer and higher rates of dying from prostate cancer than their white counterparts. So we have a lot of things going against us. And the only thing we can really do is to take responsibility for our health and get screened. Starting at age 40, earlier, if you had somebody in your family who was diagnosed at an early age. But, once you hit your 40th birthday, start thinking about doing your PSA, start looking about doing your digital rectal examination. It's not one or the other, it's both. I know a lot of men are very concerned about that digital rectal examination, and that's the number one reason why they don't want to go. But it's a simple, painless examination. If you don't want a male urologist doing it or a male doctor, go to a female and just get it done. It's not an issue, and it can save your life.
Well, Doc, it sounds easy for you to say, but
well, I'm not looking forward to it next year for my 40th, but I know that is something I have to do because I have a history of prostate cancer in my family. My grandfather actually died from prostate cancer, so I know that I have to take responsibility, and I'm going for my DRE and PSA exam come next year. So, It may be a little bit uncomfortable. There are, men. We have this machismo thing about it, but the truth is that if it's something that can save your life, why not do it?
There are there any truth to the that there are other tests that can pick up prostate cancer if you check early
Well,
that
the
are less
MRI,
invasive.
the MRI can give you some idea of what it is, but it still is used to complement the DRE and the PSA. So just to go into what exactly it is. So prostate cancer, it usually develops as small areas within the prostate gland itself. And the prostate makes this protein called PSA, prostate specific antigen, and these levels are raised when you have prostate cancer, or in cases where you have BPH, where you have an enlarged prostate, so it's making more of this PSA. But then the level of the PSA as it rises, if it's rising too fast, or if it is too high for the size of the gland, and so forth, you kind of get a little bit concerned. So you have to move from looking at the PSA just by itself, because there are so many variables. Sometimes you have the cancer that is so poorly developed that it cannot make PSA. So your PSA can be low even when you have full-blown cancer. So that blood test that you use for the PSA, it is sensitive, but it is not 100%. The finger test, the digital rectal examination, can feel if you have these little lumps developing on the prostate. And it's sensitive as well when paired with the PSA. But you have other tests such as the MRI now, which is way more expensive than doing these simple office tests. It's not a very good screening tool, because to have a good screening tool, you must have something that the average person can afford, or the government can afford to have made available in the public health sector. So we're not quite there yet. I mean, a lot of people say, all right, just give me the blood test and be done with it. But for the reasons mentioned, you can't just rely on the blood test alone.
All right, I'll start saving for my MRI. But Andrew said that Andrew said that the testing
The
is
MRI is
not
not
that bad. So
foolproof either.
I'll take my chances with the MRI. But other men are like me, doc. Men really don't like the doctor. I mean, I have nothing against doctors, but men really don't like doctors. What advice do you have for men? And that really think going to the doctor is a trip to Dovecut or whatever the case may be. But why do men hate doctors so much?
Well, there are studies that show that married men live longer than single men, and the reason is
I don't
that
know who
the,
that's
the
good.
wives dig out the men when something is wrong with them to take them to the doctor. And as a matter of fact, a lot of my male patients who have some issues, whether it's stomach, gallbladder, whatever it is, some belly pain or something with their feet, simple things to complex things, it's always the wives or girlfriends who take them out. Men just have this, I tell you, it's a terrible machismo culture that we have, where we're supposed to be tougher than everybody else. We're not supposed to cry. We're not supposed to show emotion. We're not supposed to go to the doctor because it's a sign of weakness. I don't know where we got that from. But we will sit down and watch something until it turns black and falls off before we think about going to the doctor. And, I pointed out something to my medical students and residents. We cut off more women's toes because of diabetes, and we cut off more of men's legs because of diabetes. Because why? The woman, as soon as this is something not looking right, they'll go to the hospital and realize that some infection is there spreading. You get it in time, so that all they lose is a toe, if so much. The men, they'll sit and wait until they are at death's door, and you have to do emergency surgery. And the only thing you can do is to take off the entire leg. So you will have on the female surgical ward women with their ulcers and missing toes. On the male surgical ward, you'll have a lot of amputated limbs there, just getting ready to go home or ready for their second operation. We just don't like going to the doctor, but we have to take better care of ourselves, and we have to stop living so wildly, the drinking and the smoking, and not really taking care of ourselves, not de-stressing. All of those things add up to give us these chronic diseases, the diabetes, the high blood pressure, which in turn lead to the kidney disease, the heart disease, that slowly take us out and leave us as invalids.
Yeah, I like this the segue that you just made, and you mentioned the lifestyle, the food we eat, the alcohol, the smoking. I'm just gonna bring Jay in here. According to numerous experts, Jay, majority of our health risks that men face can be prevented with regular exercise, a healthy diet, no smoking, reduce stress, and reduce alcohol consumption. Jay, tell us some of the exercises and some of the practices that men can use to improve our health. We're not hearing you, Jay. Check if you're muted.
You hear
Go
me
ahead.
now?
Yeah, man.
Right.
Hear you.
The figures are around about 75% of your risk of death is linked to lifestyle illnesses. 25% is genetic. Around that depends on the study. It's around about 75%. So that's 75. Well, repeats it again. 75% of your risk of death is linked to lifestyle illnesses. So what can you do about it? I find it always starts from a mental space, and that requires discipline, right? Discipline is very important. Self-discipline, to develop this trait in order to manage what food you eat, manage how much alcohol you consume, and also manage how often you exercise. If you don't deal with this mentally, you won't be able to create the habits required, because healthy lifestyle intervention, lifestyle modification when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to exercise, these are the things that are habitual and they become lifestyle practices. Doesn't just happen for a couple of days and then that's the end of it and it will change things. It has to become a part of one's lifestyle. So I always find mental toughness, mental upgrade, interventional practices from behavioral change is very important before even trying to change your lifestyle by improving what you eat or improving what types of exercise you do. Because exercise is only a small part of it too. Exercise is only responsible for 10% of lipid change in the blood. So cholesterol change rather. So you can exercise 2-3 times a day. You can't out-train a bad diet. It really comes back to what you're putting in your mouth, because food sends information. You're either feeding disease or you're either causing the stopping. It's either one or the other.
I really think JMB is trying to punk me because I'm probably the most unhealthy eater at JMB.
Right.
But Jay, talk to us about what is a healthy diet? What does a healthy diet looks like? I know you need your fruit, I know you need the vegetables, they say drink a lot of water. What exactly is classified as a healthy diet?
I like to classify a healthy diet on an individual basis. And that's what's going on within that person hormonally. A lot of males are actually malnourished. They're not getting enough basic nutrients, enough vitamin D, enough zinc, enough magnesium. Their gut health is atrocious. So based upon where you're starting from, I often recommend persons do blood before they really get into healthy eating, because you want to deal with what your specific issues are. It's not a blanket treatment for everybody. It's very specific. So find out what's happening to you. So fruits is relative to health. If you're trying to drop a lot of body fat, consuming high sugar fruits like melons is not going to really put you in a great position of calorie deficit in order to burn body fat. So fruits isn't just one of the opportunities of burning fat or having a healthy lifestyle. So healthy eating is relative to where you're coming from. And I like to start with either blood or looking at where you're storing body fat, specifics to you. So if I was talking to you and saying, all right, you want to change your diet, I'm considering maybe you're consuming probably too much fried foods, you're having a bit too much alcohol, you can limit those things. That's a start. However, then you may have specific issues that's different to your friend or different to your brother or your dad, that you may need to eat specifically to deal with those issues. Because some persons, too much carbohydrates in their diet doesn't really favor them. They're better off using a high-fat diet, where they then eat a lot of good fats, such as avocado, pears, coconuts, nuts, seeds. They tend to probably burn more fat from eating this way. So it's relative to the individual.
Okay, talk to us about supplements. I mean, we've seen a plethora of supplements on the market. We've seen different, every corner you go now you see a shake, one of like a shake houses. Talk to us about the types of supplements and types of shakes and how they are able to help you along your weight loss or weight gain goal.
Right. One of the most common supplement you will come across is protein, whey protein. Whey protein, persons always say, oh, you don't have enough protein in your diet. Typically in Jamaica, you may find the average male may have around about 60 to 70 grams of protein per day. So if you're eating for breakfast, you have saltfish, ackee and saltfish, you may get about 10 grams of protein from that. Lunch, if you decide to have some fried chicken with some curry goat, you may get about 25 grams of protein there. And if you repeat in the evening and have some fish, you may get another 30 grams. So it adds up to around about 60 grams. Is that enough? No, because the data suggests that you should have around about 0.8 to 1 gram of protein for every pound of your body weight, or some studies say every pound of how much muscle you have. So again, relativity to the individual. So protein shakes are very popular. Can you use them? Do you need them? Yes, you can. Some people have allergic reactions to whey protein. You can look at the vegan options. You have vegan options out there. So when you go to one of these shake bars, check what protein shakes that they're using. Check how much scoop they put inside of it, because they could just use a quarter scoop, and then you're not getting anywhere closer to substantially what you're supposed to be trying to go for. So protein shakes are popular. Green juices are popular too. Most persons aren't getting enough greens in their diet or enough vegetables, because what we've seen over the last 30 years or so of commercialized farming, a lot of the foods put into the soil, the nutrients are depleting. All right, so nutrients come from the soil. So you're consuming these vegetables, but you're not getting the nutrients that you would have got from it, or your grandparents would have got from these same vegetables. So you end up.
Quick question on that. With these green juices, are these juices, ignoring the fiber that you need for your body? When you use these juicers and they take out all the fiber out of it, is that doing more harm than good, or they're fine?
Not necessarily. Again, studies show that high fiber diets will help you to fill your stomach a lot quicker, so you eat less. So the roughage that people try to get rid of, to have a more comfortable experience from drinking these juices, there's no real study to say that there's a negative involved. However, what I've seen is that consuming the whole fruit as one, or the whole vegetable as one, probably give you a greater good for your body, rather than eliminating just the juice.
Doc, let me bring Doc in here. You mentioned an interesting point about body weight versus height weight. I went to a doctor recently. I did a medical for an insurance policy I was taking out, and they told me that for my height and my weight, I am obese, right? They told me I should be a particular weight. I've not been that weight since I was about 18. I'm wondering, these studies that has the height weight metric, who are they really representing? Are they representing an ethnic person like me, or these are different? The height weight metrics are different based on your race.
That's a very good question, and one that I have to answer a lot, because when patients come to me for weight loss, I never try to get them down to a quote-unquote normal BMI. Now, to go into it a little bit, if I heard that you're 220 pounds, that means nothing to me, because if you're 5 feet 1 inch and you're 220 pounds, that's a completely different ballgame than if you're 6 feet 3 inches. So what I want to know, instead of hearing, all right, what's this person's weight, and tell me what's their height, I want a number that when I hear that number, I will know, all right, this person has on too much weight for their height. And how we arrive at that calculation gives us the body mass index, which is the weight in kilogram over the height in meters squared. A simple calculation. There are a lot of BMI calculators online, but what that shows you is whether or not you are the appropriate weight for your height. So you're 230 pounds, but you're 6 feet 4 inches. That is not as bad as if you're 5 feet 2 inches and you are 230 pounds. Big difference in how you carry that weight, and the implications, of course, for your developing chronic diseases such as heart disease, diabetes, hypertension, and all of the other issues that are related to obesity. Now, the problem with the BMI is that it was developed for Caucasians, and their body structure is different from ours. So a normal BMI would be 19 to 24.9. Once you get to a BMI of 25, you're overweight. Once you get to a BMI of 30, you are obese. Mild, 35, moderate obese, 40 is what we call morbidly obese. And then you have patients with BMIs greater than 50 that you call extreme or super obese. These are persons who are maybe about 150 to 200 pounds overweight. Now, the problem is that whereas it works generally well if you are in the obese category or the morbidly obese as a predictor, a normal BMI for some may not be appropriate for others. And it's, as you said, straight ethnicity that determines that factor. So, for example, if you are Asian and your BMI is 24, you would be considered overweight because you have a smaller frame than the average Caucasian on which this thing is based. Now, for African descendants, we generally have a bigger frame, bigger muscle mass. I guess that's why we were unfortunate enough to get roped into the transatlantic slave trade. But the implication that has is that we have at a BMI of 25 more likely to be our normal than to be fitted as in the overweight category. So I never try to get people down to a BMI of 24, really. It all depends on how you look and how you feel, importantly. But I do try to get people out of the obese category, because when you are obese, and especially if your body fat percentage is high, then that has implications, because fat will change your body, how you process fat, how you store fat, and fat tends to make you put on more fat because of the hormonal changes, and it makes it even more difficult to lose fat. You can have a lot of muscle mass and you are considered obese, but that is because you have lean muscle mass. It doesn't take into the scale doesn't take into consideration whether this weight that you have on is coming from muscle or fat. So equally important is your body fat percentage. And when you look at that, a body fat percentage for the average male should be about, if you're over a 25% body fat percentage, then you ought to start looking at losing some of that fat, not the weight itself. We can talk a little bit more about fat loss versus weight loss. Jay is the expert on that. He taught me a lot of what I know about it. So he's probably the best person to come in on that. But so the BMI, you can't just take it in isolation. You have to look on your body fat percentage, and your lean muscle mass is extremely important because that is a determinant of your metabolic rate. Your basal metabolic rate, all of us sitting down here, those who are at home and tuning in, we're all burning fat at rest because muscle burns fat at rest. You're sitting doing nothing. You're breathing. Your liver is working. Your brain is working. Your heart, your lungs. All of that burns energy. Now, the more muscle you have, about 25% of the energy that you're burning right now is being burnt by the skeletal muscles. The more muscle you have, the higher metabolic rate. I have a lot of patients who have lost weight on these crash diets, but what they have lost is fat and muscle. So they come and it's like, all right, I lost 50 pounds in 3 months or 6 months, and then as soon as I came off that tea diet, that green juice diet, the cabbage diet, military diet, whatever these crash diets are, the weight just piles back on. And that's because their metabolism has slowed. They have lost fat and they have lost muscle. So whereas they have lost some weight, their body fat percentage has gone up because they have lost too much muscle mass.
Yeah, and that's a very important point. And Jay, I want you to address that point. We often seen persons going to the gym, hit the gym 3 months, boom, 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 you're down to the weight that you desire. what happens if you can't maintain that lifestyle? We generally see persons blow up bigger. What do you say to these persons who go on these crash diets to try and lose weight quickly to get in their Christmas dress or their gown? What do you say to these persons who do these kind of crash diets?
All right. The diet, I find, is not so much the problem, is the management of the diet. Because you can use systems of eating that give you pretty quick results if you're managing it well. As Dr. Dawes mentioned, the tissue. You have two different tissues that we like to look at here. You have lean mass, which is muscle tissue, and you have body fat. If you're deteriorating just as much lean mass, muscle, at the same time as you're depleting body fat, that's not good. You're damaging your metabolism. And that's the problem of when you go into an eating system or a crash diet, when you're losing both tissue. However, if you're able to test, if you're not testing, you're guessing. If you're able to quantify, if you're retaining muscle tissue whilst dropping fat, no matter how quick or slow it is, then there's a difference there, because you want to hold on to the muscle tissue whilst dropping the fat. And this comes with systematic procedures. The amount of protein intake that you have has a huge variable upon how much muscle tissue you will lose within this period of systematic eating or dieting. So if you're going low protein to try and drop weight pretty quickly, chances are you'll drop a lot of muscle tissue and you're going to damage your metabolism. And before you know it, your metabolism is slowed and you'll gain the weight back very quickly. So the system of managing, which is using protocols to test and not guessing, you can't, because the scale cannot quantify this data. The scale will never be able to tell you that if you're losing muscle over body fat. You have to use methods of testing in order to clarify this information.
All right. Thanks, Jay. Let's look at the persons in the comments. We want to big up some of the persons in the comments. Dion Roden, Dion want an appointment with Doc. So Doc, as soon as you come off the live, you probably need to link with Dion. She needs some information. Doc, a question from the live. If somebody wants to do their prostate exam before the age of 40, is that recommended?
Well, it's rare for you to have prostate cancer before the age of 40. But if you have somebody in your family who has had it at a young age, say they have had it before age 50, they had it at age 48, 49, then really and truly, it won't hurt for you to have that test 10 years before the age at which that person was diagnosed. Because the younger you develop prostate cancer, the more likely it is to be a genetic problem which can be passed on. So if your father or grandfather got prostate cancer diagnosed at age 80 versus if they got diagnosed at age 48, 49, the chances that you would have an increased risk of developing that prostate cancer, especially at a younger age, below age 40, is greater with the relative who developed prostate cancer at that young age. Rather than, you live long, so more accidents happen with the cells multiplying, and then it's just saltness really why you developed it at age 80. So there is no issue at all. But when you're doing the screening, usually the recommendation is that it is at age 40 if you don't have a strong family history or genetic predisposition.
I think you had answered this question from RQQ earlier. If the prostate cancer can be identified or detected through a blood test, I think you mentioned yes, but it's not conclusive. So it's recommended that you do both exams. So Young, good night to you. So Young, Benjamin Franklin, good night to you. Hi, Grade J. I know who you are, Roderick. Inviting me to the gym. I'll come to the gym when the membership fee drop. Roderick again, intermittent fasting and calorie deficit. Fiber is very important to your gut microbiome. Okay. This is Roderick Mark. Clyde says, we as men need to take better care of ourselves. And Doc, a question for you. I am 5'2", 140. Where do I stand? I assume they're speaking to the BMI matrix.
I'd have to work that out, but that doesn't sound like you're in the obese category. It sounds like you are probably just a little bit overweight. But then again, as we've been mentioning, it has to do with your body fat percentage. So if you have been doing a resistance exercise, getting enough protein, then 142 is not too bad for that height. But if it is that you have never exercised a day in your life and your idea of eating fruits is banana chips, then chances are your body fat percentage will be high. And that's something that you need to work on.
It's good that you mentioned banana chips, Doc, because it's one of my favorite snacks.
Well, a lot of men, banana. It's ridiculous. There's like an
Chippies
obsession.
and St. Mary's. No, we're not trying to plug Chippies and St. Mary's, but it's hard to stay away from them when you
That's
go to
the
the
one.
supermarket.
Yeah.
Between yourself and Jay, what are some healthy snacks that we can have? Because I am a late night TV watcher, and I tell you, the St. Mary's banana chips, and what are some good late night snacks we can snack on?
Ooh. Tough question. Well, I can tell you what you should stay away from. A
No,
lot
that's
of
the
men
easy
think
one is
that
tell me what I can have. Tell me what I can have.
a lot of men think that beer is a snack. And that's one of the most high calorie, high carb things that you can have. But you had mentioned some fruits. So there are some fruits that are low calorie and they fill you up a lot, like watermelon and berries, blackberries, blueberries, strawberries. Those things have a lot of fiber, a lot of water content, and you can, as a matter of fact, you can sit and eat as much watermelon as you want if it's until your craving goes. If you don't have anything like kidney disease or high potassium, because the calorie content is so low that you'll get sick of it before you really, well, the average person would get tired of eating all of that watermelon before they can consume enough calories. But anything at all in moderation is fine. So if you're gonna have a snack once in a while, that's different from you having a snack every night, and then what you're going for are the calorie dense snacks that have a lot of carbs and have a lot of fat in them. That can totally ruin whatever you have done for the entire day in the gym and in terms of clean eating. I have so many guys they'll come and say that, I don't eat a lot and I don't drink, and but then when you find it, they have this one weakness that whether it's the out playing domino or the working late to stay, they just have to have something to munch on. And it's usually that high calorie thing that you don't get full by eating it. It's really a craving. We need to understand the difference between being hungry and feeling peckish, but they don't stop eating until they've satisfied that craving, which can be several hundred calories later. And that's a big problem.
Sorry, Jay, since Doc answered that question, I'll throw this one at you. Darwin Allen is asking, what about these granola bars that trainers recommend? Are they, some of them are really sweet. Are they good, healthy snacks to have?
Again, I like to really argue the point of relativity. If you're trying to drop body fat, healthy snacking, I would still stick to the point what Doc recommended, is having fruits that have a low GI, so low on the glycemic index, which really doesn't give you much calories, and it just keeps you satiated. So low calories is always the answer. Sparkling water, sparkling spring water is always an option as well, because it gives you, it kind of fills you up. High fiber, so sea moss. I find having sea moss, mixing sea moss and drinking that as well can help. But it's dealing with the craving. So ghrelin is a hormone that lets you feel hungry. It's learning how to know that this is a feeling and I don't actually need to eat, because if you've consumed enough calories for the day, you don't need to be snacking. It's absolutely unnecessary. That's just a habitual practice that you have, which probably needs to be looked at eliminating it.
Yeah, but because specifically to these granola bars.
Okay. I don't want to really speak on any specific company unless I have the nutrition facts in front of me. But from what I can recall, some of them do carry a little bit extra amounts of sugar and that sugar content is turned into calories. So 1 gram of sugar is 4 calories. So granola bars, are they a healthy snack? I wouldn't say no. There's healthier options. I
Okay.
wouldn't use granola as a healthy snack option.
You know us Jamaicans, we love our vodka, we love our white rum. What
Right.
about, are there any healthy options when it comes on to alcoholic beverages? We see other countries, wine is tradition. Wine is part of the culture. We're not
Right.
necessarily a wine drinking culture yet. Are
Right.
there any healthy alcoholic beverages that you can consume socially without worrying about high calorie contents and weight gain?
The thing with alcohol as well, it's not just the calories. You have to also understand the information of what it's bringing to the bloodstream. So calories manage the weight. So calories determine if you'll go up or you'll come down in weight. All right, that's what you use for energy balance. But then within the food, it carries information. So alcohol is something that you should drink and drink not very often, right? You want to consume alcohol maybe once a week. Yeah, I know in Southern Europe they do drink a lot of wines and stuff, and it's not because it's healthier. Yeah, there is some study that looked at red wine, and the dye within red wine is actually can help with heart health. But coming back to what you can drink locally in Jamaica, if you're going to drink rum, it's then not using a chaser, because then the chaser really adds the caloric value. So if you're gonna drink some white rum straight, or drink it with water. You're better off drinking it just like that without adding the other chasers to it, which really is what drives up the calories.
All right. We've seen some good advice. We've seen some good advice on the live. Keep the comments coming. We see Richard Mack saying, how useful is water fasting to overall health? I don't know if you want to take that, or Doc wants to take that one.
Well, I'll let
Water
Doc go
fasting.
first. I'll let Doc go first or not.
Doc, how useful, we see the question from Richard Mack. How useful is water fasting for overall health? Michael Lee asked, is a high protein ensure safe to drink after and before a workout? Ensure, awesome. A high protein ensure. So 2 questions for you, Doc. How useful is water fasting to overall health? And is high protein ensure safe to drink after and before a workout?
All right. So any fasting, whether it's a green juice cleanse or the teas or water or cabbage soup, whenever you go on a very high caloric restriction or a very low caloric restriction diet, you're putting yourself in a caloric deficit. So you're remember, you need some amount of calories to take you through the day for all of the activities without doing anything, plus your regular day-to-day activities. Now, if you're not getting enough calories, your body is going to turn on its internal caloric stores, and it does not discriminate. It is going to burn fat and it is going to burn muscle. So if you're not getting in enough calories, know that that is what is going to happen. If you're getting in very empty calories, so you're having these teas that are dehydrating you, and you're getting in just straight water or low protein supplements, then what is going to happen is that you're going to lose muscle and fat. So at the end of the day, even though you can lose a lot of weight, it is not healthy weight loss. You have to get healthy weight loss you just have to come to terms that healthy weight loss must be preserving your muscles while losing preferentially fat. Now, with respect to the Ensure, I can't remember if it is the Ensure Max or Ensure High Protein. One has 18 grams, one has 30 grams of protein. The sugar content is not bad. After a workout, now, a lot of persons would say that you have to consume your protein within 1 hour of the workout, otherwise you're not going to absorb it as well. Science is evolving so much that 2 years ago, we discovered that the body can store protein. So even if you have a lot of protein now, initially we thought that there was no organ where you can store protein. The body actually stores this protein in between the cells, what they call the interstitium. So whenever you have your protein after the workout, or 2, 3, 4 hours after, your body's going to take it, absorb what it can to fix the skeletal muscles that you have damaged during the workout, and in so doing, build them up so you increase your muscle mass, or it's just going to store it within the interstitium between the cells. So it does. That's not a bad protein shake. Usually, good protein shakes, I would say at least 18 grams. 30 grams is even better, because what you get is more of your energy, and with low sugar, of course. So the less sugar you have in your protein shake, and the more protein, the better it is.
All right, thanks, Doc. Damon Clark said an apple a night, which should do the trick. That sounds like good advice, right, Jay? An apple a night should do the trick.
An apple.
Yes.
That's
As a snack, I guess. Yeah.
Oh,
that's a good one.
Yeah, that could work. It can. Yeah, that's not bad.
That's not bad. All right.
No, it's
all right.
not bad.
All right. So Andrew said rum and water for the win. Andrew, I'm not even going to take it on with that one. Akeem says, for your cholesterol, Richard, you would have to reduce your fat intake and fried foods and red meats. Eat more fibers and vegetables. Good advice from Akeem. Lamar says, good health program for me. So we see a lot of benefits, and keep the chat room very live and active, guys. But Jay, let me ask you a question. I mean, we see people going to the gym every day, and we see people paying all this, gym membership and all these things. Tell us, what are the different types of training and workout, and what are their benefits?
So training can be split into two different ideologies. You have aerobic exercise and you have anaerobic exercise. So the aerobic is generally the running, the heart training kind of stuff. The cardiovascular training, aerobic training. So a good example of this is training for a marathon, or training to do a half marathon or a 5K even. You are running for a period of more than 5 minutes where your body is burning carbohydrates and fats. On the other side of stuff is anaerobic, which is short bursts. That's like weightlifting, sprints. So like a sprinter doing a fast sprint, it takes them no more. For a 400 guy, it takes him really no more than 47 seconds to do a sprint, which uses up a lot of ATP or glycogen stores within the muscle. Two different types of activity. What you want to do is cross train. You want to mix both, because you need good heart health. So you got the guys who are bodybuilders who go and they lift weights every day. That's not the way to go about health and wellness, because you're just focusing on building up muscle tissue. A very important point that brings the two together, which is in the middle of aerobic and anaerobic, is the mobility of the joints and the flexibility of the muscle tissue. These are the opportunity to reduce the risk of injury. So if you're just lifting weights every day and you're not paying attention to your flexibility, chances are you increase your risk of injury very high. Also, if you're not increasing your joint stability and joint mobility, then you also increase your risk of injury. So just doing strength training is not the way to go. And also to the runners out there, just running alone is not the way to go, because having weak hamstrings and running means your hip isn't solid to manage all those shear forces of running. So then you start to pick up injuries, hamstring injuries, lower back injuries, quad injuries, knee injuries. So the runners need strength training in order to prevent and reduce their risk of injury. What the WHO suggests is 150 minutes of anywhere from moderate to intense heart activity per week. I saw a gentleman the other day that said he was training 600 minutes a week. But when we checked the intensity that he was training at, it was too low. So 600 minutes gone to waste, because it never changed anything in his blood when he had actually had high risk, high cholesterol, and he have a lot of other risk factors which are attached. So you can go out and do the wrong exercise and actually waste your time. You've got to make sure that you are progressing in intensity in order for you to tap into the adaptation processes of these stimuli that you're trying to use, because exercise is a stimuli. So whichever stimuli that you use, will help you to achieve the result that you want. But generally, I say, look at the sports athlete that you want to go for. You want to figure like Johan Blake, Usain Bolt, or Safa Powell, which is more ripped and more muscular. These guys train for short bursts, right? If you want to be more slender or more with less muscle mass, you're looking more at the 400 type training, 1500, which is more aerobic demand. So find what it is that you're trying to go, because most people there care more about the aesthetic first. What is it that you're trying to look like? How are you trying to change your body? And what is the type of training required for that to happen? Because every exercise brings a new stimuli.
Yeah. I want a body like a Safa Powell, but I want to buy it first. I want to buy it from Doc. But Doc, I want to bring it in. I want to bring it in here. So Young asked a very pertinent question. You know, there's old proverbs: too much of one thing, good for nothing. So Young says, I quit eating meat over 4 years now, but lately I've been feeling weak. My boss suggested that I start eating a little chicken, but seeing it makes me sick. What should I do?
You could easily have any deficiency from iron deficiency, anemia. Now, one of the best sources of iron is actually meat and liver. Otherwise, you'd have to get it from like jackfruits or some green leafy vegetables, but that's in a way less concentration than if you get it in meat. Other things, such as your other vitamins, such as B12, those are found mostly in animal protein. So what you may have is actually a deficiency in one of the micronutrients that you're not getting from a vegan type diet. So you would probably need to run a couple of tests to see whether or not we can get supplementation in to correct any deficiencies that exist.
All right. Good point. Jay, let me bring back Jay for these questions. I've heard mixed results about Gatorade at the end of a workout. I've heard persons say no, drink water, and I've heard persons say no, you can have sugar. What say the professional? Is it okay for me to have a Gatorade or two at the end of a workout?
Okay, insulin response is very important. Insulin response comes from putting into your bloodstream carbohydrates or sugar. Gatorade carries around about 30 grams of sugar. To help the protein get into the cells, carbohydrates are very important. And also to help replenish the energy that you would have used from an explosive type workout, which burns a lot of glycogen, which is stored energy in the muscle, you would need to replace it with carbohydrates. So carbs aren't bad and they shouldn't be demonized. To answer your question, what is best after a training session? If it's a very strength-based session, explosive session, you will need some amount of carbohydrates. A Gatorade is fine. It can help you to recover and help you to replenish, to help you transport those proteins that you're going to have as well. However, if you're going to have a lot of starch after, or you had a lot of starch during the day, again, I mean, you would have had that carbohydrate stored there already. So Gatorade is also relative to what exercise you're doing and what type of what you're eating for the rest of the day. But if you're on a weight loss setup, if you're trying to burn body fat, you don't need as much insulin response after you've exercised.
So water should, if you're on a weight loss regimen, then drink water.
Yes, and as I said, it depends on the person, because if you're insulin resistant, if you have a you're not very good with insulin, you need to look into that as well. And if you're diabetic too, it's broad when we're talking. I don't want to just throw out general answers there, but to a person who has normal health status, having some Gatorade after exercise is okay. It's not mandatory. It's not needed, but it's okay, and it can help you with recovery.
All right.
And Gatorade also has a lot of healthy salts inside of there to help you with hydration. So hydration is key too. You want to help the body rehydrate after exercise. So it can be good, and it can be bad for some people.
Okay. Doc, let me bring you back in. I see a question from Alicia Turner, and Alicia asks, can a high protein diet cause kidney disease?
That is one of the biggest misconceptions that's out there. Because we tell people who have kidney disease to avoid high protein diets, people believe that high protein diets can cause kidney disease, and that is so not true. Protein is broken down in the liver and it is excreted or passed out in the urine by the kidneys. As long as your liver is fine and it can manage the protein, then it's okay. You can have a high protein diet. If you're having too much protein, the liver is simply going to change that protein and turn it into carbohydrates. It turns it into sugar. That is what happens to proteins in the body. Either use it to make the enzymes you need, all the chemicals that you need, the hormones, the muscle cells, and all of the other tissue in your body, or your body simply turns it into sugar. Some of the breakdown products you pass out in the kidneys. Now, if your kidney is not working, then the breakdown products will accumulate in the body. And that is what can cause sickness in people with kidney disease. So if you have kidney disease, we would put you on a low protein diet. Now, the only thing a high protein diet really, well, there are other issues that can happen, very rarely. But what usually is triggered by a high protein diet is gout, especially meat-based protein in terms of the breakdown products. But it is liver disease that would affect how much protein you can get, and kidney disease, but it will not cause damage to the kidneys like that.
All right, great response. I hope Alicia is satisfied with that response. And this question is for both you and Jada. Have you ever seen where exercise has improved the health of a man? Just exercise. Can exercise by itself improve the health of a man?
Well, it depends on what your baseline is. The truth is that we and you know, just using the same Gatorade thing as an example, we will think that in exercising we earn it's called risk compensation. We take more chances when we have some sort of safety measure. So we think that because we're going out exercising for half an hour or even 600 minutes, it gives us permission to eat badly. And so you may end up worse off, or you reach a stage where you're stuck and you're wondering, why is it that I'm working out so hard and I'm just not getting any healthier? My blood markers are not improving or anything like that with all this work that I'm doing. It's because of your diet. So you may have a nice exercise session where you're on the treadmill for half an hour and you burn 250 calories and you're like, I'm sweating and I need to replace my electrolytes and I need to get back some energy and recover. And you have a sports drink, and then you basically neutralize all of that workout just like that. So it has to be diet and exercise that goes hand in hand. Now, if you already have a pretty good diet in terms of your calorie deficit and you're getting good protein, good micronutrients, your vegetables, your fruits, your complex carbs, and then you want to add that element of cardio exercise and some resistance training, then you can have a significant improvement in your overall health and your appearance. But you cannot use diet, exercise alone to fix your problems, to improve your health. It must go hand in hand. Otherwise, you're just running twice as hard to stay in the same place.
Jay?
Yeah, Doc just covered quite a fair bit of that. But I'd like to touch on the other side of some of these guys that I see, because we're talking about men here, where they come into the gym and they lift a lot of heavy weights, but then their calories are still very high. They're in a calorie surplus. And then they're saying their body is feeling harder. Yeah, they may be gaining some lean mass under all that amounts of body fat that they have. And also they're probably increasing their body fat at the same time whilst getting more hard tissue. So, and then they're going to throw up other risk factors as well, and then increasing overall weight. So, it can exercise improve one's health? the exercise cannot really go alone without the diet. You may be able to change certain hormonal patterns as well. You may be able to increase the testosterone a little bit based upon doing anaerobic type training, which is sprints, or doing heavy resistance loads. But hey, what's having more testosterone if your other risk factors for mortality are increasing? It doesn't make sense.
All right.
And you know, just to touch on that again, too. We spoke about the BMI and we spoke about the body fat percentage, but one of the big risk factors is where you carry this fat. So Jay just touched on the hormones, and we have a lot of men out there with what they call the beer belly, where you don't have a lot of fat on the arms and the legs, and they don't have a lot of fat underneath the skin. There's no flabbiness. The belly just looks round, and that's what you call visceral fat. That's fat that's inside around the organs, pushing out the muscle, and that is why the belly just seems round. That is extremely dangerous fat, because that is a fat that's associated with insulin resistance. It causes high levels of insulin in the body, and eventually, because your pancreas is struggling, it gets burnt out and you end up with diabetes. Now, there's a simple ratio that is even more predictive of poor health than the BMI, and that is your waist to your height ratio. So if you are 6 feet tall, 5 to 60 inches, and your pants size or your waist at your navel is more than half of that. Sorry, my max was off there. 6 to 72.
Sorry, no, you 6'5". You 6'5", because I have.
So you're 5 feet tall. You're a short guy. You're 5 feet tall. 5'12", 60. So your pant size or your measurement at your navel around that circumference should not be more than 30. So if you're wearing a pant size of 34, 36, 38, and you're only 5 feet tall, you're in serious problems. And it's a simple measurement. Just take that tape measure and run it right around. Don't tuck in your belly. Just let it all out, relax, and breathe normally. And then just check it and see. And if you have a bare belly, no matter how everything else, you look muscular, you're still in problems. Because I know a lot of guys out there, they are built where they have their pecs, they have their arms and everything all ripped, but then they have all of this fat in their belly with this big bare belly. You're still in danger. You're not as fit as you think.
Right. I'd like to add some data to that, what Doc just mentioned, actually. So this bare belly, this body fat, large amounts of body fat at the umbilical, there's another study that speaks about, which we haven't really touched on much tonight. We spoke a lot about nutrition and exercise, but that a lot of weight stored in that region can link to high levels of cortisol. And cortisol is a stress hormone in the blood. And when you store body fat in that area, high cortisol levels and how you manage stress is very important. So you can diet and exercise all you want. If your stress levels aren't coming down, chances are you won't reduce body fat as fluid as you want in that area. So stress management is very important. A lot of executives have a lot of stress, but it's not how much stress you have, it is how you manage it. So some stress managers are yoga, prayer, meditation is a very effective form of stress management. Sex, all of these things are critical for managing stress and reducing the amount of stress in the bloodstream. So another study, I think, I don't know if Doc's read this study, where it talked about prostate cancer and males and how often they ejaculated between a certain age group and their risk of prostate cancer. So that's another mention there as well, to do with lifestyle and managing stress. Doc, I don't know if you...
I don't want, you know,
the conversation has taken
already. So when I jump in now and I say that men who ejaculate more than 6 times per month, they have a lower rate of prostate cancer than men who don't. You know, he's gonna say, boy, you know, it's doctor's orders and plus Jason, I need to release stress. So you know, that's just a disclaimer right there. But yeah, the evidence is out there that the evidence is out there.
Sorry,
that
so Doc, you say a minimum of 6. So you say a minimum of 6. I'm right, you know. A minimum of 6 for the week. Wait, so for the week?
I must say anything about the week. You know, I don't want anybody saying, boy, this conversation gone too far
No,
left field.
like, doc, I needed to write me a prescription for that. But I heard you mention the beer belly, and this clearly is an issue for. I call it a Tuesday. Every day for me is a beer belly day. How difficult is it to remove belly fat, and what are some of the techniques you can use to remove belly fat?
Well, there's no such thing as spot reduction by exercising or dieting. You know, you just have to, it's just genetics why some people put on the fat. You have what you call pear shape obesity. More in women, you would have the fat going on at the waist, the hips, the buttocks, the thighs. Others may have what you call apple shape obesity, where it's more in the central area. This is linked more with cortisol, as Jay said. You know, one of the diseases that we notice that people have just this classic distribution of fat, where that's in the what you call a centripetal obesity. They have slim limbs and everything is in their trunk. Is Cushing's disease, which is a condition where your cortisol levels are extremely high. But if you're talking about surgery, now a lot of my consultations really and truly, you know, sometimes I end up just discouraging people from even considering liposuction because most of their fat is inside around the organs pushing out. So even if you take the fat from underneath the skin, you're still going to have that round belly because of your visceral fat, which is the fat around the organs, rather than subcutaneous fat, which is fat underneath the skin. So really and truly, if you're having visceral fat, the only thing you can do is to just lose fat overall. The good thing is, once you're in a caloric deficit, you're not drinking a whole lot of empty calories. And the reason why it's called beer belly is because usually you see it with men who drink a lot of empty calories, you know, alcohol, and they end up with fatty liver, which litter is exactly what it is. The liver is just full of fat. So, you know, if you're seeing a freshly killed goat, you'll see that the liver is a light brown color. When somebody has fatty liver, the liver actually starts to look yellow and it gets hard. So at the time of surgery, when you have somebody with fatty liver, that liver can literally break in front of you if you touch it too hard, rather than being floppy as how you'd see it usually. So those conditions, plus there's a big apron of fat in the belly called the omentum. All of that just gets really thickened. But the good thing is, if you're on a proper diet, you can reverse that a lot easier than people with subcutaneous fat underneath the skin. So it's really just determination and just fixing up your diet, getting in adequate exercise, and you can reverse all of that.
All right, we're getting to the business end now. So tell us a little bit, Jay, in about 2 or 3 minutes, because that seemed to be the only reason why gyms are open. Belly fat. How do you get rid of it? Not just eloquently tell us what it is, but how do you get rid of it? I've been trying to do that for the last 30 years and still can't do it.
When we started this live session, I spoke on discipline. And discipline, a lot of people carry financial discipline. They weigh up very easily their assets and their liabilities. Your health should be managed just the same. There are certain things that are assets and there are certain things that are liabilities. You have to reduce your liability and your expenditure on your health. And these are habitual practices that do not contribute to anything that cause any profound improvement. So reducing these things is very important, such as your alcohol intake, such as your caloric intake, such as your stew peas on Wednesday, fried chicken on Thursday, fry out on Friday. These things have to be managed, and you have to implement discipline, and you will have to also improve your assets. Your assets are your exercise. Your assets are your healthy eating. Your assets are your stress management. Your assets are your sleep quality, getting deep sleep at least for a substantial 5 hours per night. Deep sleep, we're talking, because deep sleep You have different level, REM patterns of sleep. So you have to manage your health like you manage your bank account. It is very important. And the deeper you go with research into assets that you may acquire, so you want to do checking with your blood often to see, probably every quarter rather than every year doing an executive. Check every quarter where your blood levels are to see if what you're doing is causing change within. Because you have a lot of healthy guys, I've heard, they turn over and they die, and people are like, oh, he was healthy, exercise all the time. Exercise only quantifies 10% of that blood change. Nutrition is for substantially more. So weigh up your assets and your liabilities. Invest heavily in the asset base part of your health and reduce your liabilities. And that will bring you into a situation where you will have better health and you will have improved performance and great aesthetic change. So in Jamaica, what I found since being here now for some 5 years is that aesthetic is always the focus for going to the gym. In other countries that I've worked, especially in Europe, persons normally train for performance. And what you then find is they then get the aesthetic benefits because they are so devoted to the performance change. And then they measure these performance metrics in terms of their strength, in terms of how fast they run or how high they may be able to jump. Because if they want to jump higher, they'll have to reduce their weight. So it's a collaboration effect. And I will strongly recommend, as a financial institution, is bringing on board these healthy practices of managing health with metrics.
Yeah, I just wish the liabilities didn't taste so good, but we until a carrot tastes as good as a piece of KFC chicken. Well, I don't know how we're gonna get there. But as we wind down, Doc, what are some of the recommendations that you can leave with us men to improve our health?
Well, just listening to Jay and your back and forth a while ago, I just remembered a saying by the Dalai Lama, and I had to look it up so I didn't get it wrong. The Dalai Lama, when asked what surprised him most about humanity, he said, man, because he sacrifices his health in order to make money. Then he sacrifices money to recuperate his health. And then he is so anxious about the future that he does not enjoy the present. The result being that he does not live in the present nor the future. He lives as if he is never going to die and then dies having never really lived. And that pretty much sums up the problem with the world right now. We get caught up in this rat race. We always want more money. We want a fancier car. We want a better stock portfolio. We want a bigger house. And nothing is wrong with that. But what are you sacrificing to get there? Are you sacrificing your peace? Are you sacrificing your comfort, your family? The simple, tangible things that really matter at the end of the day when you're old and you're looking back on your life to see if it's a life well spent. You can't give up your stress and peace of mind because it is going to come back to haunt you in terms of your health. So you will get all of these riches, and then at the end of the day, you spend it all back on people like me just to try and stay healthy. And that's something that I never want to get caught up in as well, spending out all of money, the money that I earn, trying to preserve health. I try to make some time for myself and try to de-stress. But that's what we have to do. We have to live a wholesome life. We have to look at our nutrition. We have to look at our mental health, how we deal with stress, and how we are a big part of dealing with stress is the exercise that not only builds our physical body, but our spiritual mind in terms of de-stressing. It's an excellent way to relieve stress and stimulate endorphins. So what we have to look at is wholesome living, not just a diet, not just a fancy exercise program, but how we live our lives overall.
Jay, I want to.
Jerome,
go ahead.
You said something pretty interesting. You said the liabilities taste so good. Pleasure, I have to say this, pleasure is short term, right? Happiness is long term. And food is the biggest weapon right now in terms of what's happening in the world, because a lot of the good foods that taste good has a negative effect on your blood panel. Now, what you have to understand is that are you going for pleasure or are you going for happiness? Because the pleasure is that short term, and this food is designed to taste good for that short term effect. So having your brain wired in a way where you're eating for pleasure and for taste is not going to give you the long term benefits that you require.
Yeah. And that's well said. That's well said. You mentioned, both of you mentioned it earlier, the whole fact of mental health. How much of exercise and dieting can transform your mental health, or that's we can have a separate show on mental health, but how much of a lifestyle change affects mental health and goes to improving mental health?
Well, you really need a show on mental health because, especially with men, we don't talk about our feelings. We were never trained as boys growing up to show our feelings. You cry, they call you a sissy or a girl, you can't show emotions. And we were never socialized to show emotions. So we internalize everything and then we lash out whenever we can't handle it. And this is why you see a lot of times men in relationship problems killing their significant others, and sometimes they end up with this murder suicide because they just have no coping mechanisms. They have nobody who they can talk to. I mean, a friend of yours is having relationship problem. Can you sit and talk to that person and allow him to vent what is really happening to him? Are you willing to go and talk about your relationship issues with a friend of yours? Sometimes you just need to talk, and we don't talk, nor do we have the support mechanism to talk. We would rather jive each other when we're playing dominoes or drinking or after we finish playing ball or working out. But we don't seriously take into consideration that some of us are still humans and we're going through depression, we're going through stress, especially now in these difficult times. There are cases where it's the men who have lost the jobs and the women who are now the breadwinners in the family or making more money because of the current financial climate. And that causes some stress, that causes some pressure. And there's a feeling of inadequacy because, as I said, we have just developed this machismo culture where men are supposed to be alpha males. And if you're not an alpha male, then you're nobody. So we put a lot of pressure on our men, on our boys as well. And that is something where we have to step up as men who have some degree of success in life to be mentors and show them that there are other ways in which they can live their lives. There are different paths, but significantly, they don't have to suffocate their emotional side. They should be able to express themselves freely through one way or another.
All right, so wrapping up, Jay, I was gonna give you the first go with any final comments. Just put it all together. Giving you the floor first.
Just to add to what Doc was just saying about mental health. I mean, exercise is not the solution to mental health. It is an addition. It can help to manage well-being because you release certain endorphins and good feelings after exercise. But conversation is very important. Healthy relationships is a part of wellness. It's not just nutrition, stress management, and exercise. Building healthy relationships contribute drastically to how long you will live. Right? There's a lot of data around that. So meaningful relationships, when relationships aren't going how you want them to go, that's inevitable. No relationship will ever be perfect. But it's having the courage and it's having the environment to bring these things into a forum for discussion and to hear of a person's perspective and not feel that you'll be laughed at is very important. So that's as Dr. Daw said, that's a separate show to touch on mental health and to bring forth a culture for safe conversation and persons to be able to then move forward with whatever issues they have.
Yeah. Doc, finally, you have the floor. What do you want to leave with our audience this evening?
Well, men, we have our issues that we have to deal with. Not not just to delve into prostate cancer again, but remember it's the #1 cancer killer in Jamaica. So we have to take that aspect of our health especially serious, but we have to look at our overall health. And health is not just the absence of disease, it is our mental, spiritual well-being and social well-being. So we have to take care of all of those aspects of our health and not just try to avoid getting sick. And if you do get sick or you suspect that you're getting sick, there's no shame in going to the doctor and getting treated. It could save your life.
All right. Just want to finally go back to our persons in the chat room. I just want to thank people like Shanika Allison for joining, Vinu, Morgan, Dion, Roden, very active in the chat tonight. So Young, very, very good contribution. Jerome need to cut beer, rice, and meat. What you know about my business? So Young. We have Nadia in the chat speaking facts. Doc, I need that prescription here. Alicia, very, very, very true, very good show. We're talking about, especially during COVID, Shanika said this goal getter was well delivered and the information must be accepted for purposes. Thank you, Shanique. But guys, it really was a fantastic session. I want to thank you for volunteering and for being here with us this afternoon. It was definitely man talk. I mean, it was some uncomfortable conversation, but it was some real conversation that needed to be had. I just want to thank you guys again for taking the time out to share with us. We know our viewers, they appreciate our frank discussion, and again, we thank you. We also thank our viewers for joining us and engaging us on our Go Get a Live seminar for the man talk for the entire month of September. We really, really thank you. Each week we will continue to give you live webinars where JMB financial experts and other dynamic guests share how we can navigate these challenging times. These are unprecedented times that we've never seen before. These themes will be different next week, so we continue to follow us on our social media platforms and we'll give you the information. We will stick with you, right? Because JMB, that's what we do here, and together we shall overcome. Stay tuned and stay connected to JMB as we partner with you and we have your best interests at heart. We ask that you continue to stay safe and do so with necessary precautionary measures. Protect yourself and protect your loved ones. As I mentioned before, I lost a very close friend of mine yesterday to ALS. Rest in peace, Christopher McKenzie. And I saw somebody put up a post, and it was very, very fitting. And I thought it was very fitting here as well. And the post was, try and find the perfect balance between planning for the future and living each day like it's your last. And I repeat that, finding the perfect balance between planning for the future and living every day like it is your last. Again, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, viewers, for tuning in, and we will see you next week. All right. Thanks again, guys. We really, really, really appreciate it. All right. Have a good night.